Today we're going to make a nice grilled margarita glazed swordfish, a nice little grilled corn and summer green bean hash. I think you're going to really like that. First things first, we've got some beautiful fillets of swordfish, okay, about an inch thick, and then we have some whole coriander seeds that have been lightly toasted in a pan, our black pepper, and we have a spice grinder. One of the most important parts of grilling swordfish is you got to make sure that it's nice and dry when it goes on the grill. So I always like to make sure whatever I'm grilling that I pat it dry first, okay? That way it doesn't stick, it controls the sticking to the grill. Then I'm going to actually season with black pepper. I'm not going to season with any salt yet because that will draw out more moisture in the fish. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to just put my whole coriander in the spice grinder or coffee grinder and shake it up. And now we have a nice simple spice rub for our swordfish. There's nothing like fresh ground coriander. We're just going to season the swordfish with a little bit of that. And this is a little trick for seasoning so you don't get your fingers dirty over and over again. If you just flip the towel. There we go. All right. So that's our first step, and we're going to let that kind of just sit while we prep our vegetables. For our green bean and corn fricassee, we have some nice sweet corn, okay, and we're going to get our parchment paper out just like we did in the last episode. This is going to help us keep our cutting board clean, and we're just going to cut those kernels off like so. All right, we got our corn. Well, try not to make too much of a mess, but all right, so we're going to set aside our corn. Then we're going to mince up our green beans. These are raw. We're not going to blanch these. We're going to keep them a little crunchy, but we're cut them into small pieces and just lightly saute them. And this is going to be a really bright, summery dish. Set the green beans aside. All right, so for the margarita sauce, we have our trusty shallots. Okay, we're just going to do a little bit of minced shallots. And I just cut them in half like that. I just cut them like I dice onions. And like I said before, they're a little bit sweeter than onions, so they have a nice flavor and a nice little crunch to the sauce. So we're going to line those up just like so. Cut them nice and small. All right, so here we have our nice our limes, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to use a microplane. Okay, that's what this is called. It's basically a grater, and we're going to get some of that zest off of our lime, and that's going to be, that has a different flavor than the inside, so we're going to add that at the end for the sauce to give it a really bright lime flavor. Okay, so we have that zest, and now we're going to, I love my citrus segments. Like I said, they always look really cool on top of the fish, and they give that bright, acidic flavor that you want because we're going to have like a little bit of a butter sauce. And that's going to complement the fattiness of the avocado as well for the dish. So we cut those out. And then we're going to save that so we can just squeeze at the last minute for our sauce. Okay. And now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to mince a little bit of fresh cilantro. I love fresh cilantro. Not a lot of people know this, but the coriander seeds that I used for the spice mix earlier, that's the seed for cilantro. But they do have a much different flavor. Similar, but the coriander seeds actually have a almost like a little cumin flavor to them. All right, and I don't like to bruise up my herbs, so that's about as much chopping as I'm going to do. I like to keep those herbs nice and fresh and vibrant. All right, so I have a few radishes here, and I love radishes in this dish because we're going to just put a little bit on top of the swordfish when it's done, and that's going to give us a nice little crunch and a little bit of spice. These are small, so you got to be careful when you cut them. What I like to do is I like to square off a few sides. That way it doesn't wiggle, and then that gives me, I can kind of cut it into nice little slices safely without it rolling all over the place. Okay, so we're going to cut it just like that. And then this is also going to add a little bit of color to the dish, which is always nice when we have a little bit of vibrance. And I'm just going to cut those into little strips. All right, we're going to set those aside for later on. All right, so for this, I like to keep some gloves around for multiple reasons. When I'm seasoning my proteins, I like to prevent cross-contamination, and also for certain messy tasks like dealing with avocados, I like to have my gloves on. we're gonna make the avocado salad for the swordfish, and this is gonna add a little good fattiness to the dish. That's gonna complement that lime margarita butter. And I just take this avocado and I go around it with a nice sharp knife, and there's that seed in the middle, okay? And I just twist it. See the seed? I take my knife, I give it a light little tap in the middle and twist it, and that avocado pit comes right out. So I just take my paring knife and I make squares in the avocado, and it won't go through the skin because the skin's nice and tough. Just gently. If you have to force it, the avocado is probably not ripe enough to use. This is perfect. This avocado is really, really nice. So what we're going to do is this is how I dice avocado. Then I'm going to take a spoon. I just scoop it out, and it'll come out nice and diced. This is going to go underneath our fish in our fricassee. Avocado is very good for you. It has very healthy fats that the body needs. Take my glove off. Then I'm going to season that with really lightly. I'm not making guacamole here. I'm making, I actually want the richness and fattiness of the avocado to come out. So I just do salt and pepper and a little olive oil. And we're going to kind of mash that up. And you want to really do this right before you start your cooking of your swordfish, because if you do it like the day before, your avocado is going to turn brown, and then you would need lots of lime juice, just like you're making guacamole. But look at that. Look at that shine from the olive oil. That's going to be so tasty underneath that swordfish. All right, so we're about to grill our swordfish. It has been had a little dry rub on it, and we preheated our grill to about 600 degrees, okay, nice and hot. And the reason we want to burn off anything that's been sticking to it, and what I like to do is I actually like to take a wet rag. You'd be surprised at how dirty the grill can get, even when you don't use it. See all that stuff coming off of it? That you don't want sticking to your fish. So then I'm going to season my grill just like I season my saute pans. I'm going to take a little bit of pan spray, put that on that rag. okay? And then I'm gonna wipe the grates. And that's gonna help create like a little bit of a non-stick surface for the swordfish. So now I'm going to season each side with salt. Flip my fish. A little bit of salt. Okay. And I'm gonna put a little bit of pan spray right on my fish. Okay. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay that fish on my grill, lightly press it, and I'm gonna give it a little squirt of pan spray. I'm gonna close my grill. And then what I like to do is I like to time 2 minutes for each grill mark. And that's gonna help me organize my cooking. All right, so our first timer for 2 minutes went off. Now I'm gonna turn, actually I'm gonna flip my fish, okay? And they're not going to stick because they already have that pan spray on the one side. We're going to let those go for 2 minutes. Now, my shallots have been sweating. Our swordfish is looking really good. It's been flipped 3 times. We're going to do the 4th time. And that's really, you're looking at about 8 minutes. 8 minutes of cooking time, and then we're going to rest it in the warm butter and really let it stay nice and moist. And I'm going to squeeze that lime juice, that fresh lime juice, right into my margarita sauce. I'm going to add 2 big spoonfuls of butter, because we're not just making sauce, we're actually making the liquid that the swordfish is going to rest in. All right, we're going to let that come up to a simmer. And we're going to get our pan nice and hot for our stir fry. We're going to get that on the heat, and we're going to just let that butter sit on the grill right there, okay? So now my swordfish is cooked for about 8 to 9 minutes, and I like to use a thermometer just to make sure that I get that internal temperature where I want. This fish is about 125 degrees, which is really nice. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to rest it in my tequila margarita butter, and to carry over cook. We don't want to cook it too far because it's got to rest. And now I'm just I don't know if you can see, but this is really nice. We're just basting that swordfish in that butter, and we're going to let it rest up there. So I just have my swordfish here. I'm going to let it rest on this top shelf, okay, in that butter, and it's going to carry over cook nicely. So I got a nice hot pan and olive oil. I'm going to saute my vegetables. I got my summer green beans, and they are raw, so you definitely need a hot pan. Okay. I'm going to season that. A little bit of salt, and I'm going to add my corn. Okay. Just a little more salt, and then we need a little bit of pepper in there. Here we're just going to flip our swordfish, okay, so it rests evenly. And we're going to get ready to plate up our food. All our ingredients are ready. We're going to plate this nice and fancy. We're going to do a little bit of that avocado salad on the bottom. Spread that out, and we're going to put it in, this is called a ring mold. And then we're going to top that with our summer corn fricassee. at those colors. Doesn't that just scream summer? All right. We're going to kind of press it down into the avocado a little bit, and that's going to help. The avocado is going to help keep it together so it looks pretty. And when you do two different cooking techniques for one item, it's called combination cooking. And that's what we're doing here. I've got my fresh cilantro that I chopped. And now I'm going to finish my margarita butter with that right at the end because it's nice and bright green. Okay. And I'm going to ladle that right on my fish. Oh, that looks good. And we're not done yet. I like my little lime segments, fresh lime segments. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of this radish right on top. And that's going to add a little crunch to the dish. Voila! Our margarita swordfish with avocado salad and summer corn and bean fricassee.
I am loving the fattiness of the avocado along with the crunchiness of the corn.
The swordfish is so tender, especially for a fillet that's a little bit on the thicker side than sometimes you see. It is delicious with this tequila lime sauce on top. Oh my.